Thank you, everyone, for joining us. I guess this is, or for many people, maybe the return after the summer break. It's actually, for us, a second event. We actually did a face-to-face event yesterday in London at ODI's new offices at King's Place. If you haven't seen our Canal Side chat series that we're putting on, these are face-to-face discussions. They are recorded, and I think they're going to be released, I believe it's approximately a month after each one's run. So you can come in person and participate in those. There's no fee. It's something we want members to get involved in. We certainly probably welcome input as well as to things you think we should be talking about in the data ecosystem. Yeah, that will go out shortly to everyone. But this event is about and for members. I think we've had some changes at the Open Data Institute. I'd like to introduce myself and what some of the direction of travel is. I'm also delighted to make the introduction of a new membership manager, and we'll do that shortly. And so first of all, I will ask Hannah to keep me to time. I am known to talk too long sometimes. I'm aware of my own inadequacies, and I would ask her to keep me to time as I go through this content. I'd like us to be done, certainly in my material, in around 25 minutes, so that we've got at least half an hour if people have made the hour available for interaction with the members and any questions. Do feel free to ask questions during this. I may nudge you to the end if I don't think we're on time, or if I need a bit more time to give you an answer. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of just a quick intro to what we're going to go through. I'm Stuart Coleman. I'm Director of Learning and Business Development at the Open Data Institute. Some members may recognize me. I was one of the founding directors at the ODI in 2012. I left in 2014, and I was delighted to rejoin in an interim capacity last year, and then full-time this year to work with the leadership team to try and move us towards a kind of new stage of our journey. We are still quite a young organization, 10 years old next year. And I think there's much we can still learn, much we can improve on, things that we need help from others to do. So I'm going to give you a quick update on what we're doing, how we're organizing our work. We've got Summit coming up. I've got an offer specifically for membership. And the members, obviously, you all are eligible for discounts to Summit, but I'd like to actually extend that to enabling you to offer a free place to organizations you work with, who you may want to come along with you to the event. And I'll talk about why I'm doing that in a second. I'm delighted to give you an update on learning. We are investing quite heavily in our learning organization and taking more courses to market. And then a quick final update on Inside Business, which is a content series that we're building with predominantly business organizations, but the membership community is a diverse one, and we welcome participation from organizations in different industries. So most of you know who we are, where we came from, who we were founded by. For those of you that don't, we were founded in 2012 by Sir Tim Berners-Lee, well known for inventing the World Wide Web, and Sir Nigel Shadbolt, increasingly well known for his work in AI and open data. And we're delighted to have both Tim and Nigel as co-founders and executive board members, with Dr. Jenny Tennyson and Louise Burke as a kind of operational leadership. We want to become more of a membership organization, which is why I've put it in emboldened in capitals there. Our membership community is, I believe, about 2,500 organizations at the current time. That includes individuals. And so some people on this call, I imagine, are individual members. Some people are corporate members. Some people are third sector members. We have universities. We have a very diverse membership community. We want to keep that diversity in the community. It's pretty simple what we're about. We want data to work better for everyone. That's a pretty kind of grand statement. If we break that down into how we actually do our work, well, fundamentally, we have work streams, which I'll go into in a second, which are all about working with companies, with governments, with development organizations to try and build a more trustworthy data ecosystem. And we also have now specific tactics, programs that we're trying to deliver on, which we think underpin that overarching goal. Is a diverse community in the membership field. I mean, we've worked with regulators. We have some regulators who are members. I mean, there are many regulators across the UK and in other governments and countries. Regulation is conducted and carried out in different ways. we were delighted and are delighted to still be working with the UK government on the National Data Strategy, which has obviously been going through various iterations. Increasingly, we are working with corporates. I can talk a bit more about some examples in a second. And you know, we are doing more work with philanthropic investors where we get funding to explore particular areas that we think need focus. So, for example, our Data Institutions program is a program that has been spun up really with philanthropic investment. It's all around looking at what structures, both legal, organizational, and kind of culturally, need to be put in place to enable people to work more responsibly with data, to steward data on behalf of others. So why, you know, let's just talk a bit about kind of where we're focused on, what our priorities are. We used to have a sectoral focus at the ODI. So we used to kind of go after trying to drive change in specific sectors. And we've made some inroads in you know, in certain sectors. I mean, transport's a classic example. Pretty much everyone can associate the impact open data has had on transport because they've probably used some type of transport app in their life. You know, COVID has brought to the kind of front and center the utility of data around the state of services in the NHS. So, you know, these are well-trodden use cases and examples. But we didn't want to reinvent the wheel. What we did want to do was try and break through in some new areas and focus on what we know are ultimately some of the largest challenges facing us all. And this is how we've kind of tagged our work. You can see different areas that the UK sees as priorities, but the UN Sustainable Development Goals are pretty well known. Some of them, you know, there's a few that arguably are more aligned to developing economies. And we certainly don't by any means work exclusively in the developed world. I mean, we have and are continuing to pursue work in developing economies. So you can see kind of how we've prioritized these. If you actually dig further into the areas of work we're doing, to give you examples, well, you know, we have done work in, for example, agriculture with the Gates Foundation, an organization called CABI. We are working at the moment with Ofwat to try and improve and open up the market around water, which is, as I'm sure many people are aware, is increasingly becoming a scarce resource and one that many people feel needs to be opened up as a market. We're delighted over the last year and a half to have done a huge amount of work in healthcare with Roche. And we'll be publishing in the coming months ahead a toolkit for governing better practices and better governance and use of data in healthcare, as well as some policy work that showcases to the EU how the sharing of data could actually lead to more personalized treatments in healthcare. So, you know, we really value the work we're doing with governments, corporates, and other organizations. And membership, we want to kind of better plug into those types of activities. So some of you may have seen some of the tools over the years that we've published. One of those that's probably the most, I think it's the first or second most searched term on our website, is the Data Ethics Canvas. We've translated it into, I think it's 5 or 6 languages. We're constantly getting requests to do it into more. We recently developed a digital version of that canvas, and we will be making that available to members. We very much want you to use it, to try it out, to give us feedback on it. So we're trying to kind of deliver more value and more engagement to members. We now organize our work and allocate our funding. I mean, we are a not-for-profit organization, and I suppose the difference to perhaps many organizations who are not-for-profit is that we do get investment from government, private sector, and philanthropic sources. There aren't many organizations that have that diversity of funding, and that means we have quite a lot of governance. We have to own a lot of reporting. We have to provide back to those stakeholders. We decided earlier this year to restructure our work into programs because we felt it was an easier way to communicate once we do start talking to larger organizations how we go about our work, and B, also monitor the impact we're having and try and report on that clearly. Now, I'm not going to go into all these programs now. These are the different programs. Of course, you have to tilt your head on a side to read them, but in essence, at a very high level, data literacy is all about learning. Data assurance is about bringing more trust to the data ecosystem. So we were looking at partnerships there where, you know, we've talked to one member organization here. The the NPL, Stuart Chalmers, we would love to partner with organizations who have got the potential to change the way markets work, to make data become more trusted. Data Institutions is effectively a dedicated research and development program to the stewardship of data. And research kind of spans all of these programs. So it's just a way for us to organize our work. We can happily go into it in the Q&A a bit more if people want to. But one of the most significant announcements and important announcements today is not about what we're doing and who we are. It's about a new team member who I'm delighted to introduce today. Is in day 2 of her role as membership manager. Diana Tripak has just joined us and is in our King's Place offices, unlike me. I'm sweating here in my bike shed in southwest London. But Diana is out of the office 3 days a week. We've got a great new venue. She will be doing a full review of how we currently deliver propositions to membership. You can see Diana has experience of working in a global membership organization at Toastmasters, and she's got a wide range of interests, and educated me that her homeland of Moldova has the largest wine cellar in the world, which it's worth Googling, by the way, because you can see this enormous kind of like underground world that looks like something out of Willy Wonka's chocolate factory, but it's full of wine. So really delighted to have Diana on board. Please do connect with her. Please do email her. And in the spirit of trying to initiate some correspondence, I know many members here did have dialogue or exchanges with Julie from time to time. We would like to kind of extend an offer around Summit. So delighted to have Diana with us, and she will be getting to know all of you and plans to also send out a survey where we will want your honest, direct and anonymous feedback, because I think, frankly, you may want to say things there that you may not want to say to us today. We would happily accept that. So our membership priorities are really quite simple. We want to grow membership, but we also want to make sure we retain and add value to existing member organizations. Many of you have been with us from the early days. I actually had a nice experience yesterday sitting next to Blair Freeburn of Geolytics. I'm not sure if he's on the call here today, but I think he was one of the first member organizations who I met way back when. And it was really nice to see him at an event. I know some of you here have also been with us a long time and have probably seen ebbs and flows in the kind of investment we've made to membership. I'm hoping that we're at the start of a much more considered and significant level of investment in terms of time and resources into membership. We are doing stuff behind the scenes to improve our processes around how we communicate with members. We may make some further changes that you may be aware of, but certainly from a front-facing point of view, I think we've also learned, as many organizations have, that we can deliver more stuff virtually. So the opportunity to expand membership globally in line with the way we've delivered Summit for the last year and plan to this year is something we want to explore. The community is predominantly UK centric at the moment. We do have some international members, but we see that as an opportunity. We hope that also is an opportunity for UK members. So, how are we going to do that? Well, we don't know, or we don't have all the answers. We need your help to get there. We certainly hope a simple first step of enabling existing members to refer someone to Summit could be a good kind of token, an olive branch from our side. We also will be putting forward a carefully considered survey to do that. The data ethics canvas I talked about is going to be available at some point in the months ahead. There is a digital version already available. We'll happily send a link to members. You can go and get that free from GitHub. It's openly available, as is all our propositions. And of course, you do benefit from existing discounts off learning already. So just a bit on Summit. I think I've got 6 or 7 minutes left before I'm over time. So this was the numbers on Summit last year. I mean, we've always traditionally run our Summit event as a face-to-face event. Of course, like all organizations, we had to adjust and adapt our approach. I think the kind of the split last year was something like about 30% of Summit was pre-recorded. And I believe that's about right, isn't it, Hannah? The remainder was kind of delivered on the day across quite a long, I mean, we started fairly early UK time and went on a bit late so we could kind of reach all time zones within reason. And we had really, well, certainly we felt really solid engagement, and hopefully people who are here today who participated felt it was a good event. Again, we would of course welcome feedback, but as a data institute, we thought it would be useful to share some of the numbers. I mean, this year, ODI Summit is titled Data People, and I would highly encourage you to go to the link that is here. Again, we will send this content round to everyone. But you can learn more about kind of what's going on at Summit, and we would like you to feel you can offer a place at Summit to anyone in your circle. We're not going to be kind of picky or specific. If it's a friend, a colleague, a partner, or a customer, or an organization you're working with, you think that you look at the agenda with them, you think it's interesting and relevant, please do contact us, and we'll make a spot available for them at no charge. We want to, I mean, I think that, you know, at the moment we tend to have a kind of a scaling of pricing. The closer to the event, the higher the prices for tickets are. But I mean, effectively, that's an offer of about £130 per person. I think we'll probably average ticket price, something like that. So we're not making that offer lightly. Of course, if all the members took that up, we might be in a difficult position. But you know, I'm hoping it will be of value to some of you. Just a quick update on learning. I wanted to talk about what we've been doing in learning, and we've come out of a period of research and development. The last few years, we were fortunate to have quite significant funding from government to fuel that R&D. Tools like the Data Ethics Canvas, like our toolkits for public and private sector, have been adopted in varying degrees by different organizations. We wanted to formalize learning around those tools to enable people to use them in an effective way. We also wanted to verify and validate people's learning. You know, we don't think it's enough just to say you've been on a course. We want people who are using something like the Data Ethics Canvas to prove that they know how to use it, and that we've actually looked at them using it with a particular data set. And we underestimated the level of interest in this type of learning. I mean, we've had 2 public cohorts fill up within 2 weeks this year, as well as a kind of private cohort for another organization. We can happily circulate more details. Again, the link here gives you a bit more detail on the syllabus, so happily discuss that more. Our ODI Inside Business Season 2 is kicking off. That is really taking the agenda of data literacy to more senior leaders. We certainly think it's something that needs to happen to kind of drive change. So that's going on. Again, we welcome input and ideas from the membership community about getting involved in that, putting forward speakers, titles, that kind of things. We have got the next session ironed out, and that's going to be released soon, but certainly there is a kind of open, fairly blank canvas for future sessions where we could take input. That is it. And I think I've finished 2 minutes ahead of time. I would welcome Q&A. I'm hoping there is going to be some, otherwise everyone gets some time back. And I can see a bit of chat. So, okay, there we go. Any questions for myself, Hannah, or Diana, or any of the wider ODI team? There must be someone with a question. What do people think? Mike, Rose, I'm going to pick on you if that's all right. You've got your camera off, but I'm not sure if that's okay.
Yeah. I was just sitting here thinking, I haven't got any questions. And then you pick on me, brilliant.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, that's quite all right. No, it all sounds pretty interesting, actually. I particularly like from my perspective, I particularly like the way things are structured. What I'm interested in from my side is where, as the sort of plans within each work stream, what each area develop, where the opportunities are within those to sort of interact with ODI and input, I suppose.
And you're obviously running your own business. So what are the kind of things that are important to you?
Well, I suppose it's so the area that I'm working in at the moment is around is around sort of like developing economies and things like that, and data there, and sort of taking best practice and applying. And I suppose the thing that interests me is the flipping it taking the learning that we're getting from working in developing economies and applying it back here, and just sort of doing that kind of co-learning is probably a bit strong, but that bit.
Yeah. I mean, I think we obviously, you were involved in, I believe, the DLAB project in Tanzania. We have been kind of engaging in some opportunities where there are organizations looking at dedicated kind of funding for example, there's quite a lot going on looking to try to mobilize data capability in the global south, which is being funded by various institutes. We have looked at some of that. I think, I mean, look, the nature of the learning we're developing is such that we want other people. The facilitator's course is an example of where it's not accrediting someone else to go and give ODI's learning, but it is enabling them to share how the tools work with other people in a structured way so that there's consistency. We have to strike a very careful balance, because we have some people coming to us going, so you can certify me as a data ethics professional? It's like, well, we're not legally certifying you to be safe with data. It's your organization's liable for that, but we are certifying you how to use our tool in the way we think it should be used. And that is a subtle difference. I mean, Stuart, it's nice to hear positive feedback. I mean, we want to partner with organizations, whether they're standards bodies or professional bodies, who already have kind of established recognition for their sectors. Obviously, your sector is all about measurement and people trusting that things are measured properly. We want to kind of take the same principles to data. We think data needs to be professionalized, and that may not suit or be of interest to every member organization. We would accept that. Any other feedback from anyone else? It's not really fair for me to pick on people, but there's people I'd love to. I mean, we've got so many people here, I don't know who they are. I'd love to.
Got a question from Lisa. Asking, are you focusing on sustainability data to support ESG reporting?
Where's Lisa from? Sorry, I can't see that question. Where is that?
Hi, Stuart. I don't want to go on camera because I've taken a day off work and I don't feel Zoom ready.
Totally understand. Thank you for joining us on your day off. That's commitment.
I currently work for an events and exhibition business, but I also have my own independent consultancy.
Yep.
And I help organisations build data strategies, but I'm really wanting to try and look at encouraging them to think about triple bottom line data strategies. So it's not always about the profit, but it's the people and the planet. So many companies are now going for this. We need to report against ESG standards, because that's the way that they can get investment. I'm just curious if there's anything, because you mentioned the SDGs, is there anything that's coming up that's going to be how you can help organisations with that triple bottom line view of data?
Yeah, there is actually. And first of all, thank you for your intro. And again, thanks for joining on your day off. So a couple of things. First of all, I'm quite familiar with triple bottom line accounting from earlier studies of Steve Elkington, the economist who developed that proposition in I think it was the late 80s. But I mean, ESG data has definitely come of age. There is a huge amount of engagement and dialogue. So some of our partner organizations, and we're looking to try and forge kind of closer, we're not quite sure how we're going to implement it, but we want to have a closer kind of dialogue between this community and our partner and alliance organizations. The partner and alliance organizations are typically quite large projects for the ODI, where organizations are investing typically kind of 50 to 75K of project cost in work with us. Some of the organizations working with us are wholly focused on ESG data. We have a dedicated booth at Summit this year around ESG data, which is going to be led by Diana Cizaz, who is one of our senior researchers and who runs our data ecosystems program. To get to the root of your question, ESG data is really broad. So one of the things we're doing, and this isn't yet kind of publicly released, but with one of our partner organizations, I can't say who it is yet because the scope of work's not been signed off, but they are, let's put it this way, they are one of the global leaders in trusted company data, if I can call it that. They want to work with us to develop a data spectrum. If you've ever seen our ODI open our data spectrum, which articulates the kind of, completely open, shared and proprietary closed data propositions for different sectors. They want us to do one around ESG data with them. We are not experts on ESG data. I don't think any organization, single organization, can be. I mean, there are, of course, alliances like the Future of Sustainable Data Alliance, which I would encourage you to look at. If you're not familiar with it already, you may well be based on your question, because there are organizations collaborating. Many of them are competitors. If you look at FOSDA, they are competing organizations who want to improve that data ecosystem, because I think ultimately ESG data will underpin many of these challenges. How does the UK and other economies get to net zero? Well, they're not going to do it without trusted ESG data. So I think we see our role probably being two or three things. One is trying to have the same type of impact we had on sectors like banking, where we led and implemented policy work which ultimately drove regulatory reform for open banking. Wouldn't it be great if we had proper regulated data standards around ESG data? Because if you take examples of things like, I don't know, environmental data in the early days, there's still a lot of misinformation when it comes to carbon reporting. It's a classic example. But of course, there's such a wider area of ESG data. I'm waxing lyrical about it. There's other questions coming in. Does that help with your
It absolutely
question?
does. And thank you very much. And I didn't know about that, because I am just beginning my journey of how to make a data strategy a bit more all-encompassing and not all about revenue and profit. There's more value to data than one view, in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, look, I would please do come to the summit, attend that session, bring someone with you if you want to come back to us. Seeing some other questions. Hybrid working, we're still figuring that out, I suppose. We've always had remote flexibility at the ODI, so unlike a lot of organizations, that's always been part of our DNA. I think hybrid means different things to different people. We currently still operate flexibility. Many of our team are coming back to our new offices, which I think they're probably not going to tell me to my face, but I'm hoping my colleagues like on the call, so thanks for that input. American Express, Ben. Well, delighted to speak with you or hear your comment. Yes, so our online learning platform we currently have free data literacy content available. It's delivered through, I think it's Moodle, which is an open source free learning platform. We're just investing in a paid for version, a paid for learning platform, because we think we can offer more functionality. We're going to put more syllabus up there. So there's some basic data literacy stuff there. I'm going to ask Diana to make a note of sending you, Ben, some example links to some of the learning that is already available, and give you some more information on the data ethics learning and syllabus, because we actually have a whole full pack that gives you kind of like 2 pages of the detailed content in there. Hopefully that's answered that question. Yes, we will be making the presentation available. We will send it out and all the links will be in there. Yeah, I can tell you a bit more about the data ecosystem stream of work. So if I go back briefly to those, let me just go back to the programs, put it in context. So some of these areas of work, some of these programs are arguably just formalizing areas the ODI has worked in and is well established in. Data literacy is a good example of that. We've always done learning. It's just that we're putting more focus on it now. If anything, it was quite a small part of what we did. We certainly do not want to be competing with commercial organizations. So we often walk away from opportunities if we don't think they're aligned to our mission or having a significant enough impact. Some of them are new areas where we're specifically focusing resources, budgets. Sometimes that budget goes to external organizations where we think we don't have the expertise. We're bringing it in. Data ecosystems and innovation, it's wrongly titled there, sorry, which is the turquoise one, is a new program. It's effectively something we used to run challenges at the ODI with other partners. We've done kind of challenges where we've got data opened or shared in sectors, and we've had people collaborate with that data to build new products, apps, or services. We hope to have similar collaborations in that sector, but we are also using that program to focus on particular emerging ecosystems like ESG. So ESG is a big focus of that program. And yeah, I mean, look, I think I'd love to, I think at the next briefing, we should get, based on some of these questions, we should get the people who are leading our new programs, areas where we are investing, to do a more detailed briefing session. Deanna was only appointed, I think, about 2 weeks ago to lead that program. So it's a new program for us. The best way to explore opportunities, if you think you've got ideas, and you can come to us with those, and you know, if there's a kind of an idea, a budget, and a proposition you think we should be investing in, come to us, come through Diana, come to me, and we will connect you to those program leads. Thank you for putting the Learning Month in there, Hannah, or whoever it was that posted that. I should have put that in the content. So any other questions? I mean, one of the things I talked to Diana about yesterday was, obviously we have a membership newsletter, which I think for some period of COVID stopped. We plan to keep that going, but I think I would hope that we would also have this type of forum more regularly. How often is kind of up to members. We don't want to have it for the sake of having it. We want to make sure it's something that brings value. I think one of the questions we'll ask you in the survey is, how frequently would an update be useful? And what's the sort of thing that that would be most interesting to see there? Any other questions from anyone? I don't think I've missed any, have I, Hannah? Is there anything else there?
Which was the last one that you answered? I didn't know if you'd moved on from, because Graham's asked a question, Mike and Louise. I don't know if you've answered those.
Oh, I've seen Louise. Yeah, I responded to Louise's. So I think if there is, I mean, I can talk a bit more about research collaboration. So one of the things we are doing is we are looking at research opportunities in the EU. Obviously, everyone knows we've left or are still in the process of finalising everything to leave the EU. However, the UK is eligible to bid for Horizon funding. Quite happily share our own tactics for that. We think that bidding ourselves directly is probably not a smart move, because we think, A, we're quite small as an organisation of 50 or so people, and B, we're not necessarily convinced that the EU will look particularly favourably on an organisation of our size that is UK-centric bidding. So one of the things we are doing is looking to establish relationships, and we're already investing in that through Violetta Mezikova. Some people may have come across Violetta before. She was formerly an ODI trainer. Violetta is doing some associate work for us to build a pipeline of research and development opportunities in the EU. We want to develop research and opportunities in the UK as well. And I think one of the milestones I would love us to achieve at ODI, which we've never actually done yet, is to get some significant investment from industry for research and development. Of course, it has to be on mission. What I've seen over the years is we get many corporates who want to do research and development, but it's always the research and development they want to do. And when we're a mission-driven organization, that can be quite challenging. So I don't know where you're from, Louise. Excuse I can't see that in the question. I don't know if you want to speak up and talk more about your query. I hope I've answered it.
Yes. Thank you. I'm based at UCL, and so there's lots of researchers, and quite a few of them have sort of like, they're not data institutions in themselves, but they're running like a very big data programs and projects. And so there's just, I'm aware there's probably lots of opportunities to collaborate in different ways.
Well, I mean, that's great to know that you're with a leading UK Russell Group university. I mean, we're not. I mean, we've actually this summer we've got some interns and potentially some secondees coming as well from other academic institutions. But no, we're working with King's. Many people may not be aware, we were originally founded with support from the University of Southampton. So at the time when Tim and Nigel set us up, it was actually, they were academics in residence at Southampton. They're both now back at Oxford. But we definitely want to using that kind of cross. Yes, please do follow up and connect. And if you could tell us more about the types of research you're engaged in, I can share it with Olivier Theroux, who's our head of research and development. And I think we've got a simple agreement. I mean, obviously we've missed the summer window for kind of placements, that kind of thing. We also do have a fellowship program, which I will ask Diana to share with you, which is where for slightly more senior staff, perhaps if you've got a senior lecturer, or you've got someone someone who's an established academic who maybe wants to work on a particular area of work with us, we can sometimes fund that work. So that's another opportunity. There was one other thing I was going to say around academic collaborations. We'll do a separate follow-up. There's definitely, we've made more progress this year around those types of collaborations. We want to make a lot more next year. So it's a good time to be talking to us. Thank you for the question. Anyone else? Also, the final thing I was going to say for academic organizations is we are on our next cohort of data ethics professionals. We would be open to funding, depending on the attendee, representatives from academia, because we want them to take the open and reusable learning material back into pedagogy inside academic institutions. So that's we think that actually delivers partly on our mission to get future generations using our learning materials. So that's something else we can offer you. I think the questions I can't see any more.
Do you mind if I speak up rather than type?
No, go for it. Thanks. Oh, hi, Graham.
Hi, Stuart. How are you?
Yeah, good. Thank you. Nice to see you.
Keeping safe.
I am. Thank you.
So just thinking about membership, it's nice to see that you're coming back with a focus on membership and you want to drive up membership. Thoroughly to be applauded. But with that in mind, what's your vision for the membership fragment of what the ODI do? So where do you see the membership piece going? Are you trying to turn us into a nicely connected network with the ODI sat on one side, slightly catalyzing it, or the ODI very firmly in the middle, offering specific benefits? Have you got a clear vision for that, or are you still working it up?
I would say I can kind of see I have a vision around what the industry and what I think kind of society needs based on our mission. But of course, I have to align that around a very diverse range of stakeholders, universities, corporate pharma companies, broadcasting literally the diversity is massive. Trying to get everyone aligned around something of common reciprocal value is tough. I actually think my own vision is that is hopefully we have a lot of individual members at the ODI, and I don't think I ever want us to lose that. I mean, you can join for as little as £1. We might lift that price in time. We may need to if we start to continue to invest more in products and propositions. But to go to the kind of your either or, I don't see it being either or. I think some people will just want to be an individual member because they support our mission and they think it's important that organizations take data more seriously and consider it more of a kind of cultural issue and kind of they buy into our values and what we're trying to do as an organization. I think some organizations are corporates who want to be seen to be working with the ODI, whether that's through formal learning. Ben from American Express obviously asked about kind of access to learning content. That's really positive to hear that he has asked that, because I would hope that we would have more corporate members. I also think the networking, as we get bigger, will become really useful. So smaller, quite focused teams and organizations, hopefully Mike won't mind me pointing at his example as an organization that does particularly focused work with developing economies, can come to us and say, I want to connect to American Express or the McGovern Foundation who are working in the Global South or whoever it is, and we can make those connections. But I want us to do that more effectively than we've done before. Previously, membership was very administrative as a function. And I think we need to be using tools that work, whether they're social media, whether that's LinkedIn, whether that's, we've had a Slack community. I don't personally think the Slack community is particularly active or particular. People might disagree. Again, we'll get some feedback from people through the course of the survey. But my vision is that we become a global community of people who care about professionalizing data in the same way that the other sectors over the years have professionalized, whether that's, I don't know, accountancy took maybe many years to professionalize, or whether that was actuaries or, a whole range of different engineers would be probably a really good comparable example. I'm hoping that kind of answers your question.
I think it does. And I agree with the piece about some people will just want to be members to support the broad good work and the purpose. Maybe you're tapping into the fact that we're all perhaps gently activist around the idea of data and slightly more openness around data.
Yeah,
I don't know whether we all are, but there's certainly a strand that I've found whenever I've been at an ODI summit.
Yeah, I think it's a really, really astute observation. I mean, ultimately, a lot of people in open data and some of our earliest members are from the more activist side of open data. And we think that there's still huge amounts of work to build the open data infrastructure that, you know, different governments and different society at large needs. Like, that hasn't changed. Our mission to wax on about the need for data infrastructure and not thinking about data as oil is the same as it ever was. It's just that we want to try and reach and engage larger audiences, I think. Thanks for the question. Good chat. Any other queries from anyone else? Oh, Greg Elliott. I have a question about academic collaboration. Please tell us, Greg, where are you from?
Yeah, sorry, I'm just going to close the door because the traffic's a bit loud.
That's all right.
Yeah, I think I've been a member of the ODI since the early days, but a couple of years ago, I moved across to the Netherlands, and I'm now teaching at a University of Applied Sciences down here in Middelburg in Zeeland in the Netherlands.
Ah, yes, I know where it is. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's a nice part of the world.
Yeah.
My particular focus, we run a bachelor's course in ICT, but we have a particular stream that's on data science. And one thing we're working on at the moment is to build up a framework around, it's around AI, but the focus is on data. So it's about how do you make sure that your algorithms are ethical, and a lot of that is about making sure, you know, on the basis of garbage in, garbage out, making sure that what you're feeding them isn't garbage, and making sure that you can correctly interpret what comes out. So it's not specifically about open data, it's about data generally, but there is a large overlap with what the ODI does, especially around the data ethics framework. If we were interested in collaborating with the ODI because we've got this overlap, what's the best way for us to approach you?
I think the first instance is, depending on how specific you have an idea around what the collaboration could be. I mean, on one hand, you might just say, you know what, we want access to some of your learning materials to be able to reuse them. And could you do a workshop to kind of tell us about them? Like, we've had those types of engagements with kind of member organizations before. Okay. And so we can do that kind of thing. And you know, we have a rate card to support working with academic organizations and third sector organizations versus commercial organizations, right? And we're pretty transparent about that. Okay. And of course, if it's just a kind of, you know, can you tell us a bit more about what you're doing? And we're not going to charge you for a conversation. We would love you to approach us and feel that, you know, you can make the approach to Diana, who can then channel that request to whoever it should be. I mean, in time, I would love us to have a much more digital community-based way of doing that. We do have a Slack channel, which you can join, and which Diana will be getting to grips with. Whether that remains the future way for communication, I don't know. I mean, I can tell you, I think our skills framework, which funnily enough, we're even toying with renaming, because most people use it for trying to build organizational capability around data literacy. And within it, there is specific focus on some of the non-technical skills you need to have to try and mitigate the risks of harmful impacts with data, which is kind of what you're talking about, right? I mean, there's stuff in there which and we do actually have learning, like the data ethics professionals specifically targeted for that. And of course, we're never going to offer data science learning. There's hundreds of organizations that will teach you how to use Python or R or whatever it is you want to do in data science. But we do have a particular philosophy around how you you can develop the right data infrastructure to try and mitigate harmful impacts from things like algorithms. So we can, we can arrange a follow-up. I mean, we have our resident, I mean, expert's a dangerous word, I think, because obviously you call someone an expert and then they're kind of forever going to get something wrong, aren't they? But Olivier Theroux is the person in our organization who runs our own internal community of practice around data ethics. If you, I mean, the skills framework, if you haven't seen it, I'm going to just stick it in the chat now. If I can figure out where the chat bar's gone, I've lost that. So yeah, I mean, I don't feel like I've fully answered your questions, but it also doesn't seem to me 100% clear what the collaboration could be.
No, it was more, I think at this stage, I think you're right. It's more about, it's probably more about how can we each keep each other abreast of what we're working on, so that if opportunities for collaboration do arise in the future, that we can see them.
I can tell you where I think there is some interesting momentum building in the EU. The EU's open data portal is run by Capgemini out of the Netherlands. And I think there seems to be a shift, it's early days yet, in the EU recognizing that not only do they need to deliver open data through that portal and make it accessible and reusable and all the good things you should be doing with open data, but they also need to use the portal to enable skills and build capability. And there might be opportunities for collaboration there, you know, possibly going after Horizon funding or Erasmus funding, those kind of things, right?
Yep.
And you actually, there's an action. We should connect you to Violetta, who is focused on building our community of member organizations in Europe. She kind of supports all the work we're doing in the EU to grow business.
Okay.
So I'll ask Diana to make an introduction to you. Thank you for speaking up. Any other?
Sorry, can I just add one more thing?
Yep.
Without taking up too much of your time. So the other thing we're doing is, so as you know, the EU, you mentioned the EU, they published their proposals for regulating AI not so long ago, and there's now feedback coming in. What we're hoping to do with our students is to enable them, once they graduate, to be able to conduct self-assessments of AI systems, where the main focus will be on the data. And to conduct audits. And that's the other thing that I'm working on with an organization called For Humanity, is developing audit criteria to meet the EU regs. So that's the other thing that's linked to the framework, if you like.
That is very interesting. So I think that you should also look at, I'm just going to share in the chat the digital version of the Data Ethics Canvas. So I think I've just shared the skills framework. I think that's gone through. Bear with me a second. Hang on. Has that gone through? I think it has. So if you, it was Greg, wasn't it? Greg, if you click on the last link in the chat, you'll see that there's a digital version of the ODI's data ethics canvas.
Yeah.
Now, we haven't yet released that publicly. So there is a kind of, if you were to go on the data ethics professionals course or propose an academic, that we could teach you how to use that. If you did the facilitators version, then those students you reference would have a kind of a repeatable best practice approach to working ethically with data. Insofar as we see as, you know, that might be useful to them.
Yeah, it certainly is. I mean, that's one thing I've got on my to-do list is the mapping. But I know from having already seen it, there's a huge overlap. So, but yes, I'll use that as a resource. Thank you.
Good, thank you. Any other questions? I think that we're not. So we're kind of 5 or 6 minutes before time. I'd just like to, on behalf of the ODI, thank all of you members for staying members through thick and thin. Hopefully we are all now emerging into a, I don't know, more positive world. Certainly, I suppose we're very fortunate in being in Western countries, or certainly, not everyone is fortunate. Certainly in the UK, we're fortunate with the state of where the vaccine has got to. I wish everyone happiness and health, and thank you for joining us today. And I reiterate, please do come to myself or Diana with any queries. I'd love to connect with you and try and support what your organisation is doing, as long as it's on mission with what we're doing, of course. Thank you for your time today, and I hope to see many of you at a future membership event and or at Summit as well in November. Thanks, everyone.